let's keep talking about using linear equations in slope-intercept form. We learned how to solve some of these or write some equations with a couple points. One of them being the y-intercept, so let's bump it up another level. Alright, so before we did that, we did equations using slope-intercept. Now we're going to write an equation using points, not necessarily being the intercept. And why are we going to do this? One of the examples we'll do is so you can write a model for total cost. Okay. Alright, so here are your Common Core standards. These are the same ones as the previous one. Okay. We'll have a quiz on this later in the week. Alright, so this is how we're going to do this. We're going to write an equation on the line in slope-intercept form by first identifying the slope. Then we're going to use the y. We're going to find the y-intercept if we don't already know it, and we'll substitute in a point, okay, one of the points that we know, into our equation with the slope, and then we'll solve for b, and then we'll rewrite the equation with all of our missing parts. All right, so here we go. Write an equation on the line that passes through the point -1, 3, and has a slope of -4. So as we look at this, we don't have the y-intercept, so we're going to have to find that. So let's go ahead and first let's identify the slope. Well, in this case they tell us what the slope is. It's m is equal to -4. Now let's go ahead and find b. And in order to find b, we're going to plug in our points into our equation. So let's start with y equals mx plus b, and then let's substitute in certain points. So I know that x comma y is here, right? Now, so I know that x is -1 and y is 3. So x is -1 and y is 3 is a solution for this line, right? It's a point that works for this line. So let's go ahead and plug that in. So I'm going to substitute in 3, okay, where we see y. Y is 3. Substitute that in. M is -4. X I know is -1, right? Because this point, -3 and 1, is a solution. That's a point on this line. And then I need to figure out what b is. So let's go ahead and solve. So -4 times, we'll drop that back. -4 times -1 is +4. Okay, then I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, and I get that b is equal to -1. So I know my y-intercept is -1. And I can go ahead, rewrite my equation, plug in the missing parts. Y is equal to -4x minus 1. Alright, that's pretty much all that there is to it with this. So let's go ahead and try another one. Alright, find an equation line that passes through these 2 points, -2, 5, and 2, -1. So, first, let's find the slope. In this case, we know that the slope is +6 over -4. Okay, from 6 to -1, that goes up 6, right? And then, that goes down 6. And from -2 to 2, it goes up 4. Okay, that's how we got this. If you go the other way, -1 to 5, that's how you're going to get the +6 over -4. Simplify it, -3/2. Now, let's find b. So let's plug in a point. In this case, doesn't matter which point you put in. You might want to try to be a little bit conscious about when you plug in, so -3/2, right? You're going to be multiplying it by x. So because the denominator here is 2, I'm going to look for an x value that is a multiple of 2, right? Something that's even, so that this will cancel out and I'm not working with fractions. In this case, both of them are, so it doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and plug it in. -2, since this is negative, right? Let's be smart about this. Since this is a -3/2, it might be nicer to work with this -2 so that I get a positive value. So -3/2 times -3/2. Sorry, -3/2 times -2 is going to be +3. Then we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. I get b is equal to 2. That's my y-intercept. Now I can go ahead and plug in my equation. Y equals -3/2x plus 2. Alright, let's try another one. Write an equation for the linear function with the values f of f4 is equal to 9 and f of -4 is equal to -7. Let's find the slope. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite my values, right, my function, as points. So 4, this is x, right, and this is the result, okay, which would be y. And here this would be x, and this is the result, which in this case is y. Okay, so here's 4. When x is 4, I get out 9. When x is negative 4, I get negative 7 out. So 4 comma 9, negative 4, 7. You generate your your slope from there, and when you are done simplifying, you end up with 2. So let's find b. So I know y equals mx plus b. Let's substitute in the missing parts. So I get 9 for y, 2 or 4 for x, 2 for m. And let's go ahead and plug that in, or evaluate. So I got 9 is equal to 8 plus b. Subtract 8 from both sides. And I'm going to get b is equal to 1, which is my y-intercept. Okay. And let's go ahead and write my equation. Y equals mx plus b. And I know that m is 2, b is 1, so 2x plus 1. Okay. So another way of looking at this part, the b equals equal to 1, if you put this point on a graph and you put this point on a graph and you draw a line between those 2 points, you'll see it will intersect at 1. That's what this is saying. It'll intersect the y-axis at 1. Okay. Hopefully you have a pretty good idea of how to do that. Let's take a look at membership problem. So your gym membership costs $33 per month after an initial membership fee. Initial meaning beginning, right? Before you, as you join, you have to pay a fee. You pay a total of $228 after 6 months. Write an equation that gives you the total cost as a function of the length of your gym membership in months. Find the total cost after 9 months. So we want to find the cost, right? We want to find the cost based on the number of months that I'm in there. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's first identify the rate of change, or the slope, right? And this one, you know, there's ways you can find it too if you the keywords, right? So per, this means ratio. Okay, so here and here, this is a ratio or a rate of 2 different units. That should scream to you slope, 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 right? Slope here. Okay, rate of change, average rate of change. That's the thing. Okay, that's what you're going to want to look for. Okay, so in that case, we know that our rate of change is $33 per month. Starting value B is our initial membership fee. We're not sure what that is yet. So let's go ahead and figure out how to write an equation. So let's use words first, you know, our Manglish here. And we'll say that the cost of the gym membership, right, is going to be equal to how much it costs per month multiplied by the number of months plus whatever membership fee I had. All right, so the total cost, we're going to call that C. We know that the monthly cost, or the rate of change, is 33. The number of months, we don't know. We'll call it T, and the membership fee is B. Okay? So in this case, T would be the same as X, and C is the same as Y. Okay? Because T is the value that we are changing, and C is the value that we are measuring the result of. All right, so we have a point here. We know that 6 months costs $228, so we can plug that in. Okay? Plug it in, and we can solve for B. All right. Once we've done that, we can take it. We can rewrite our equation from step 2. And we'll substitute 30 in for B. So we get the cost of gym membership is 33T plus 30. And we can go ahead and now we can decide, okay, well, what if how much will it cost if I'm joined for 9 months? And I plug that in, and I end up with $327. So hopefully you have a pretty good understanding on this. Really, it's just one extra thing from the last topic we did, but it's good practice solving for B here. And yeah, we'll have a quiz on this later in the week.